Hi guys, here's part 2 of the tutorial. Now in this part, I'm going to show you how to insert the box. Now one tip that's going to save you time is don't open the box until you're ready to actually insert it. Now this way you know the right side that the box is supposed to face. Now the loop side of the corset always goes on the right and the skirt side always goes on the left. So here I'm marking out 1/2 inch for the seam allowance from the CF. Next, I'm going to place the top side of the looped side of the box facing the wrong side of the fabric, because when I insert it, this is exactly how it's going to face. Now here I place this side, leaving 1/2 inch at the bottom and 1/2 inch at the top for the seam allowance. So here I'm just marking out that seam. Also mark the 1/2 inch at the bottom as well. Now if you see, I placed the box just right behind the 1/2 inch that I measured from the CF. Next, I'm going to mark right beside each of the loops, like so. So here, these are the loop sides that I've marked, which is about 1/2 inch. Next, I'm going to join the fabric and the lining facing right sides. Next, I go ahead and join the seam, but skipping that part where the tip of the loop pokes out. So here you see that I'm skipping all these parts that I marked on the loops. So here I'm just going to put my finger through so that you see what I meant by skipping the parts where the loops will poke out. So where my fingers are sticking out is where the tip of the box is going to come through. Next, I went ahead to give it a good press, laying out the seam open. Now once I did that, I inserted the box right through from the inside part of the fabric to stick out, also making sure the right side faces up. Now next, I ran a stitch right at the edge of the box just to secure it properly. So here you'd see I'm pushing it towards the CF, make sure it's like firm in, and then I'm just sewing a stitch carefully to secure it. Now for this part, you could use your invisible foot to do it, but I was comfortable using this, so that's why I did. But if you're not comfortable, please use an invisible foot for this part. So this is what this side looks like being done. Now moving on to the left side, which has the knobs. So the same thing I did on the other part, I marked 1/2 inch from the CF on that. But here you'd see I'm aligning the other side with this one so that I get the exact point at which I did that. Now next, I'm just going to sew out that 1/2 inch seam allowance, which I marked. Next, I went ahead to give it a good press, just making sure the seam lays out flat, like so. So here I'm just double checking one last time to make sure it closes the right way. And when you do this, make sure the gap in between is not too wide. Now one tip to note is the knobs usually sit closer to the side of the CF. Next, I went ahead to place the knob side of the box right in between the seams on the CF and securing it with a pin, like so. Also pushing it to make sure it's close to the CF as much as possible. Now while I'm doing this, I'm also securing it to just hold it in place. Now once fully secured, I went ahead to mark right on top of the knobs because that is the part that will stick out. So here I'm just marking right on top each knob. Next, I went in with my awl. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but I just basically made a little poke right where I marked. You know, I didn't make it as wide because I didn't want it to be too loose around the knobs. So I first did a little mark and then gradually tried to, push out the knobs from each of those points that I marked. So here I'm just pretty much repeating the same process, carefully just trying to, get the knob out through the fabric. Little by little, make sure you start small. Now starting with a small opening gives you more room to adjust as you go. If you start with a big opening, then it becomes loose and then you're trying to patch it up. Now another thing you could do once you've gotten the knobs out of the hole is to also use a fabric fray. Now for this, I did it after I used a fabric glue called Fray Check. Just put it right around the knobs so it just closes that hole even more. Now after I did this, I went ahead to also secure the box like so. So here the box is pretty much done. So the next thing to do is just finish up the rest of the corset. So here's another look of the box all done. Now when there's hardly any gap in between, that's when you know you fixed it in the right way. Now next I went ahead to join the back sides to the front piece of the corset. See here, I just joined it with 1/2 inch seam allowance. Now next I trimmed out about 1/4 inch off of one side of the seam and then did a top stitch. Also here I did the same with the lining, basically just joined it on the sides as well with 1/2 inch. So now I'll go ahead and repeat the same to the next side. Now next I'm going to go ahead and close up the CB, also using 1/2 inch. So I just turned it inside out and then sewed my 1/2 inch seam allowance on the CB. Next I turned the seam out back to the front and then also did a top stitch. Now at this point was when I went ahead to insert my bonings. Now this part I didn't capture on camera, but basically I just inserted the bonnets in each of those casings that I made, also leaving 1/2 inch at the top and at the bottom for the seam. Now next I cut a bias with length of 3.5 inch, and then here I basically just joined the bias to get the desired width. Now next I folded the bias into 2 and then just gave it a good press. So next I went ahead to stitch the bottom part of the corset, also the top, just to secure that seam. I'm also repeating the same to the other side. So next I use the bias to finish both the top and the bottom part of the corset. So I sewed from the top, making the bias face the inside part of the corset. Now to finish this, I folded the bias to the inner part of the corset and then basically just ran a stitch right in between the first stitch that I just made, so that the seam is like hidden right in between. So next I basically repeated the same process to the remaining 3 sides. Now here the corset is about 80% done. Now just by laying on the table you can actually see the curves already that is on this corset. Now here's what it looks like on the inside. Now next I just did the markings for where my grommets will be placed. Now next I just fixed in my grommets. Now here the grommets are all in, so basically the corset is done. So here is the final look. The only thing left now is to put the ribbon in for the lace-up back. Now towards the middle part of this tie, I'm going to do the corset in such a way that I'll be able to like easily tie it by just pulling those 2 strings in the middle. Now towards the end of the ribbon, I'm just going to make sure I tie that super tight and just trim the excess. So here, this is what I mean by tying it by just pulling those 2 little loops. You see how easy it just makes it? So you can like open it and then easily just tie it. Now this is usually done if your corset has an opening in the front. So guys, that's the end of the tutorial. If you've stuck around to the end, thank you so much. And if this video was helpful, please give it a like, a thumbs up. You can ask me questions if you have any in the comments. I'll be so glad to help. Also, if you guys would like to see more videos like this, please just make sure to interact with this video. So also don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss a video from me. Thank you again so much for watching, guys. See you in my next video. Bye.